we're going to hit recording, so this way we'll have this session to view later on. So hello everyone, thank you so much for joining on the blog, and everyone on a Periscope, thank you so much for joining as well. This is the first time that we're doing this live broadcast on a couple of different platforms. My name is Braco, Pobric, and I am the Certified Positive Psychology Coach. I'm the author of the book called Habits and Happiness, former globally certified trainer for Dale Carnegie, and a few more things that's really not so important. So tonight, we are going tonight in the morning, depending what time zone you're in, we are really going to discuss habits and happiness. We'll spend a few minutes to talk about a couple of things that are here. You know, what are the habits? What do we do? And then what I would like to do is spend most of the time really discussing the habits that you folks want to implement or change, and just give you kind of like live advice what some of us think. I have you know, amongst many of you, I really have a great couple of honored friends, colleagues, positive psychologists. We have somebody else joined, Ahmed. Hi, welcome. Just tell us where you're from, Ahmed. And so first I have, as you can see, so you see a video of Dr. Lynn Sutz, who is professor of positive psychology. And I'm so grateful that Lynn joined us. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, and hi to everybody.
Thank you so much for joining. We also have a Karen Henry, who is also a positive psychologist and teaches positive psychology as well. So this is really, really cool that we have two great guests that can help us a lot. So let me just spend a few minutes on habits, and then, hello everyone, and then we can get started with some questions. So just a really a few high level, and by the way, if you folks on Udemy, just say yes, so I know that some people folks joined from Udemy, so they are already taking my program, and some, or one or two or few, and some other people that happen just to find us, which is, I'm so really proud and honored that thank you for joining. So really, what are habits? So habits are, you know, things we do, emotions we have, believe it or not, and thoughts we have. So on a high level, you have the physical habits, easy to explain, right? Tying up your shoes, is dressing up, brushing up your teeth. You don't have to think about it. Then we have some emotional habits, which often we don't think as a habits, but often will have a certain emotion, so be happy, sad, and something will trigger it. And unfortunately or fortunately, that becomes a habit. Then we have a thinking habit. So often something will trigger it, and our mind, our brain will go into certain thinking mode, and something will pop up to our mind. And we have something that I call circle habits. And you're not going to find this in literature, as far as I know. Okay, I got some props. As far as I know, I coined this term, but it really doesn't matter. Just make it as a joke. But the circle habit is, if you think of something that often you're going to say, you say to yourself, hi, you say to yourself, I'm going to start exercising tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, you're going to say, well, I'm going to start next day. The next day comes, you're going to say, well, I'll start Monday. And then while I'm on vacation, when I come back, and then when you came back, and so on. So thanks for props. And then thanks for more props. And then you just don't start it. So the problem with this, with the circle habits, is that not only that you didn't establish your new habit, but even worse, now you drive yourself crazy. So you really have two choices. One is to be like Nike, just do it and get started. Not easy for a lot of folks. It's just simply not easy. And another way is to put it off for a while. So say yourself, you know, I can't do it for the next, 30 days because I'm so busy. I get up 5 o'clock anyway, and I go late to bed. So putting off for 30 days, I'm going to reevaluate, and I'll start from there. I spend a few more minutes on circle habits because I think they're important. Now, I would like to turn to Dr. Lynn Sutz. And she has, again, she's a professor of positive psychology, teaching this positive psychology and happiness program to a number of universities. And I think it's pretty cool, and I'm so honored that actually Dr. Suits took my book and created a program on to actually part of the positive psychology. So Lynn, why don't you just tell us a little bit about that, and how does this apply? What do students say, and what do you think? What do you want to share with us on habits and happiness?
Well, I think the greatest thing was when I integrated it into the curriculum. A lot of times students thought, oh my gosh, here's just more work for me, and it's just going to be so overwhelming. And I don't know if many of you can relate, but I do know, and I don't care how much education you have, a lot of times in our lives, we just get so busy with things that we're just so inundated. And then when we try to implement something new, we tend to do it in a large quantity, and so it doesn't stick. And so when I use the habits and happiness for a lot of my students, we first, it was pretty comical, the first discussion, because we talked about why don't people stick to their habits, and you try to go to the gym, and you say, oh, I'm going to go 7 days a week. Well, that's close to impossible. So we talked about how you actually integrate things into your life, and it can just be in like really small things, and that you praise yourself along the way of doing that. If you decide, you know what, I think that I want to lose weight. Well, that's great. A lot of us want to do that. But then we say, well, if I can't diet and I can't keep the diet 100% of the time, then I failed. And that's just not so. It might just be saying, you know what, instead of having bacon and eggs for breakfast, I'm going to try to have eggs and fruit. And to start out really small, and then as you go, making those small changes that will really fit into your life. And the really funny thing is I had told the students, I said, before we even were going to do the habits and happiness, I said, okay, I want everybody to try to integrate better health into your life. So each night, all of us are going to do 100 sit-ups. And at first, the students were really gung-ho. They were like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, we can do this. And then I started asking them, well, how did that work out for you? And of course, by 2 or 3 days, most of them had just dropped doing it, because by 10 o'clock at night, they were tired. They wanted to lay down rather than to do 100 sit-ups. And so then what we said was, okay, how about if we do 10? And so then they were able to keep that habit up, and that was fine because it fit into their lifestyle. We can't cram more stuff into our life when we don't have the time. So we have to find the things to make them habits so that they become part of our lifestyle. And the students at the end of it, the response after going through this book and doing the habits and happiness, it was such a change for them to actually see, oh, I don't have to beat myself up when, I don't meet this kind of outrageous goal. I need to figure out how to integrate things into my life. And when I do, also to praise myself, it's okay if I backslide a little bit, but when I do make that mark, or when I do make that goal, to just say, yeah, I am getting better, which is kind of the big thing, because I think a lot of times people are harder on themselves than other people are. Everybody, if you're a friend of somebody, you want to see them succeed, but a lot of times we tend to be our own worst critic. So I think the book really kind of showed the students, how we can integrate things into our life and make those changes. And it's not like trying to, push a great big snowball through a little hole, but to actually kind of let it melt into the life. So yeah, I absolutely love the book.
Thank you, Lynn, so much. And I know, Lynn and I have discussions offline, and we all go, life happens, and it's easy, we can, create all these processes and tell people what to do and tell ourselves, but things happen in life that, and then, we may want to start some habit and it's just not easy to start. So, just give yourself permission to be human and keep trying. I don't know if Karen is available to do anything on a voice. I know she's not in the video. Let me see. But Karen, if you are online, if you can just please feel free to pick up a mic and tell us what you think about your habits. Yeah, I think Karen is coming in and out because of the commitment that she has this evening. So she might just lost us for a minute. Maybe what we can do, we can certainly talk a lot about this and give you advices and figure out what to do. But maybe it would be a good idea if you just type your question. What habit you're struggling with? What are you trying to do? Why can't you do it? Or you just say what habit you're trying to establish, and maybe we can just all discuss. And some of us that are online, well, just Lynn and me, with the video and voice, we can talk, and then the rest we can just put in notes. So who's the bravest to ask question? Actually, it's funny, there is a questions tab. Let's see if there's something there. No questions. Okay. All right. Hello, Exquisite Boutique, if I pronounce it correctly. So while we're waiting for questions, it looks like people are still trying to figure out what to ask. Lynn mentioned a couple of things. So we talked about, taking the small steps and something, what we call small wins. So if you want to implement any habit, let's say, you want to start exercising, and I don't know why I picked this one, maybe because I struggled, 4 or 5 years ago to establish it. Just start small. So instead of saying, I'm going to start exercising, starting tomorrow, I'll do 30 minutes every day, for the rest of my life. Some people can do this, but it's extremely difficult, and many of us just simply cannot. So start with the small steps. Just say, tomorrow morning, so all I'm going to do is put my running shoes on. So what I did is I put my sneakers next to my bed. So when I got up, I put the sneakers on. Yes, I was so happy. I accomplished my small goal. As Dr. Sutz knows, what happens when you accomplish small goal, you get a little dopamine, that happy chemical. And as you get happy chemical, it makes you feel good. And now you go, oh, this is good. Now next day comes, it's just going to be so much easier to do the next step. So put your running clothes next to your bed. So you wake up, put your shoes on, put your running clothes on, bingo. 2 steps, you established, you reached already that small goal, small wins, a little more chemical, and so on. Next morning, what I did, just went to the basement, and I know this sounds funny, and I looked at the treadmill. That's all I did. And it just felt good. I said, okay, I established the next step. Just because, knowing this process and research behind it really helps a lot. And I know tonight we really don't want to talk a lot about research and who did what may come up, but that's really not the point. It's really just to take real examples and see how we can help. So while we were saying this, any question, you can either just type it here, or it says type something cool. Okay. The question that Felipe is asking, was it Jose? I think Jose, right? How to move from desire to action to achieve a goal on the way to be happier? Oh, that's a great question, Jose. Lynn, you want to get started?
Sure. Now, Jose, I assume that you're talking about just actions that you can do on a daily basis to become happier. And I think that a lot of times, people, when they want to make a change, they want to make too drastic of a change. That they say, well, you know what, I want to become happier, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to join these clubs, I'm going to be around people, I'm going to do this. But in a lot of ways, that puts you too far outside of your comfort zone. And so to be able to say, you know what, maybe I'm going to take these small steps that every day to be happier, that I'm going to make a choice to, if somebody does something that kind of makes me angry, I'm going to make a choice to let it roll off. I'm going to let one slide each day. And then, or maybe my choice is going to be to say hello to somebody that, maybe looks like they need a hello for the day. Believe it or not, that a lot of times when you give off happiness and you make somebody else happy, it comes back to you twofold. And so, you don't have to make these great, big, huge changes. One of the philosophies that I always talk to my students about that I think is really important, that, you know, you can jump into a pond and make a huge splash, but it's gone within a few seconds. But if you take that small pebble every day and drop it into a pond, then the ripples will ripple far to other shores. So making the small changes of action and just deciding on what's comfortable for you. Because, Jose, what is good for you might not be good for me, and the opposite might also be true also. A lot of people don't like to go out and be, you know, quote, happy, happy, oh, I have to act happy. We can be very content in life, and it might just be doing something small. I think that I might join a reading group where there's just a few people where I feel comfortable. So it's going to be very individual for everybody on their road to happiness, but it has to be meaningful to you, and that has to be choice of what it is that you want to make the changes. Is it engaging with other people that you think that might make you happier? Is it engaging with self and maybe taking up a hobby or a lost hobby? This is one of the biggest things too in positive psychology that I often touch on, is that we lose great habits from when we were a child. You know, I talk to so many people and I'm like, what did you used to love to do when you were a child? Oh, I used to love to paint. I used to love to go bicycling. I used to love to do this. So your path to getting back on the track to good habits and happiness might be to re-engage with some of those things that you used to love to do. So again, it's going to be a very individualistic type of path or journey, but it doesn't have to be big, and I can't say that it's going to be a one-size-fits-all, but it should be something that suits you and fits you, not something that somebody's told you, well, here's how you get happier, and this is the recipe you need to follow. You have your own recipe.
Thank you, Lynn, so much. Thanks so much. I want to add just a few more things. So, you know, as you said, you really have your own recipe. So actually, I'm reading this again. It says to achieve a goal on the way to be happier. So I want to make it clear that the goal really shouldn't be the happiness. It's really that journey that will make you happier. So, and you know, if you look at some of your goals that you achieved, so often you wanted to, you know, get a new job, and you got that job, and yes, you got happier, but then 3 months later you realize it's just like any other job. So it's that journey. It's the meeting people. It's having coffee with a friend. It's you know, going on LinkedIn and connecting. It's sending notes. It's everything that happens between. So I really want to make that clear. I think it's really important because often people will, you know, try to reach that goal and then think that when they get that they'll be happier. You know, we got to be happier today. You know, so that's one thing. And Aline, you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you, yeah.
Ah, thanks. And then the other thing is, you know, if you, maybe I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question, but if you said move from desire to action to achieve some goal, another thing is that desire, it's just not good enough. I'm sorry to say this, but I have so many desires and I just make no action because it's just not good enough. You have to have, why? I mean, I know I'm making this, you know, a little over, but you really have to have not you, Jose, all of us, huge why, huge reason to achieve some goal. Really, and it's funny actually. I just happened to have, but that's another book from Viktor Frankl, and you know, it just happens to be on the other side. But you know, it talks about that huge reason, right? So unless you have that reason to achieve that goal, it's going to be difficult to get it. And maybe just give you a quick example. When, you know, people want to do exercise, why? Well, you know, I want to feel good. I want to be healthier. I want to be. They're all really not great reasons. We all want to be, you know, we all want to lose weight. We all want to feel good. But like, you know, with me, when I finally realized why, and for me, the reason was that I didn't want my son to lose his dad in young age as I lost my parents. I didn't want to make the same mistake. Welcome. I wanted to make sure that he has an opportunity to have me around as long as I can, and it's my responsibility to do that, so that hopefully, I'll be able to see grandchildren and so on. But that was my goal. It wasn't just, oh, let me lose some weight. For some reason, if they're obese, that could be a good reason, just to lose weight.
Yeah, I think what you really are reflecting here is the idea that whatever it is that you decide to do is that it has to be very intimately meaningful to you. And, that's another foundation of creating good habits. It's just like, and I can tell everybody that, I'm an ex-smoker. I've been quit now for the one thing that I can say I'm glad I'm a quitter of for 15 years. But, at the time when I had started to quit, it was because I was in the military, and the military said there wasn't going to be any smoking. At that time, I didn't really want to quit. So I used to say that I was the best quitter around because I had done it 1,000 times. But, then when it really became meaningful and I decided that it wasn't good for my health and I wanted it for me, then, it really started to anchor the fact that I wanted to quit smoking. So whatever it is, the goal that you want to achieve and you want to take action, is that it has to be something that is meaningful to you in some way, very meaningful.
Thanks, Lynn. So, Jose, we hope we answered your question, and if it's not clear, please let us know. Let me give like 30 seconds to another brave person to ask us something. Again, any habit that you want to establish, or any question about habits, general happiness, positive psychology, science of happiness, anything that will help you during this call, that would be great.
Or how about even if any of you have achieved a particular goal and maybe articulated, why you achieved it. If you would like to share that also, that's important to know when people do achieve goals. What was the process that they went through to achieve that? Or I know another big one that students always, when we discuss things is, why is it that it is hard to keep goals sometimes? So what are some of those hurdles that sometimes get in our way to achieving goals? Is it that, do you find that a lot of times it's the goal is too big, or the challenge is too big? Or how about even, I know one of the biggest things, and while you all are thinking of some good questions to ask, I will tell you a story of a huge block that I had. And like I said, you would think that understanding positive psychology and knowing how to create habits and reading all these books, that I would be, very well versed in this. But I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of times, like I said before, we can be our own worst enemies. And years ago, when we had just moved to Hawaii at that time, I'm in South Carolina now, but we were in Hawaii, and I was watching all of these people do that fantastic stand-up paddling thing, and I thought, wow, that is so awesome. I'd love to try that. And at that time, I was in my mid-40s, and I was like, maybe not really the sport or something for, somebody in their mid-40s to be trying. So I was really being my own, devil and telling myself that I couldn't do it. I was too old. And every time we went to the beach, I saw all of these people, having fun on these stand-up paddles and going out. And so one day we were at a very, very calm, like almost like a tide pool. And I thought, oh, I really should go and rent one of those stand-up paddles and try it. And then I told myself again, no, what if I fall off? Everybody's going to think, oh, my goodness, she's just a tourist. She doesn't know how to do it. And so I kept telling myself I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so instead of trying, like with any habit or anything that we want to do, I really kind of downplayed myself. So in the end, what happened was we were in this really calm tide pool, and there was about 2 or 3 90-year-old, real small, frail, older lady and older men just going away on these stand-up paddles and doing this. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, here they are having so much fun, and they're 90 years old, and they're just enjoying, their time of doing this. I should be able to do that too. And so I got over that hurdle, and I did give it a try. But I think a lot of times it's our own self-talk that holds us back from maybe attempting, from taking that initial step to creating some sort of habit that we want to create in our life. So I don't know if you all have experienced that sort of thing with your self-talk or not, but I know that can be one of the biggest hurdles to not starting a habit in your life of what you want to
do. Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, I think most of us experience some kind of self-talk. Maybe it's just you and me that do, but so I mean, while we're waiting for questions, so we'll just cover a couple things that could help people to deal with the habits and deal with things that they want to start. So a couple of things. I think often I talk about some of the secrets of habits and happiness, but I think number one that I always tell people is that you really have to believe that you can do this. You have to really believe that you can make this happen. And I know that sounds like Thomas the Train. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. But there's actually so much science behind it. And I just have to give a credit to Dr. Bruce Lipton, who was one of the first to talk about and to discover that when we believe in something, when we truly believe, down to the cell level changes. I mean, think about it. Our body down to the cell level changes if we believe that we can either do something, right? So that's that placebo effect, or if we cannot do something, and that's what he called nocebo effect. So either way, your cell literally changed. So that's a huge thing to know. I mean, just by knowing that, now you know that you have to believe you can do this. If you just say, well, I can never really, I just can't lose weight. I tried everything, I can't lose it. You're not going to lose weight. I mean, that's one thing. A few other things that are important is that, when you want to do something, make a big announcement. Tell everyone. I mean, just so easy today to do it. Go on Facebook, go on Twitter, send an email, tell your friends. And there's a reason for that, because when you do that, when you tell everyone, you're making a commitment to yourself. And you're going to feel like, well, I made this big announcement, everybody knows. And, you're kind of thinking, well, I can't really, disappointed all these people. And when I said this in one of the workshops, one of the participants said, well, the only person you're going to disappoint is yourself. And I said, yes, you're absolutely right. But, to give an example, even with this broadcast for blogging and Periscope, I just scheduled it and told everybody I'm doing it, and that's it. First time we do using this platform, but that's the only way to do it, right? So to give it a shot. Try to find some, a support group, if you will. So this doesn't need to be, having, 30 people and so on, but it could be like one friend. And make sure that friend either does already what you want to do, and or is definitely has a high desire, willing, and reason to do that. You don't want that person to drag you down and say, well, don't worry about exercise today, we'll do it next day. So that's really important. Lynn actually mentioned, and maybe you just put it in different words, but reward yourself. Tell yourself this is great. Even just by telling that to yourself, your brain is going to love it, give you a little bit of dopamine. Even just saying that, I achieved something. And also reward yourself. Now, I know you have to be careful with reward, right? If you're trying to lose weight, and then you're gonna go, thanks for the props, by the way. And then you're gonna, if you're trying to lose the weight, then you're gonna go, well, I really did well this week, did so well. Let me go Friday, have a big lunch. That may not really work well. So be careful what your reward is, so that it doesn't negate what you've done already so well. And I'll just mention one more, and I'm going to turn it link to you. The other thing is willpower. And, this is like big subject, willpower, self-esteem, so much research behind this. but we want to share one that's really important, and we're going to keep it really short. But something called famous radish, and I'm sure Lynn you probably talked to your students about it. Radish research. So, but basically what they did is just quickly they brought students into the lab, and they told them, not to eat anything, a couple hours before they come. And then when they came into the room, of course they have a fresh baked chocolate cookies. The whole room smelled so great. And then they told one group that they can just have a cookies as many as they want. And then another group they told they can only have radish. They cannot really have any of the cookies. I'm going to go through the text on the side just in a minute, and if I can answer the questions. So then of course the sneaky psychologist, and I know Lynn does that probably too, kind of watched through that clear glass that people couldn't see them, and yeah, people did follow. People who they were told they can have cookies. Yep, they had the cookies. People who that were told you cannot have, they didn't. So then later on they put them in another room, and they basically told them, well, they're going to give them just some tests. And actually they gave them a test that was unsolvable. So it really was impossible to solve. Long story short, people who were told that they cannot have cookie, right, stayed about like 15 minutes longer trying to solve that problem than the other folks. And the research behind this is that they actually lost the willpower thinking, oh my God, I can't have the cookie. This is ridiculous. It smells so well, and I'm hungry, and why did they tell me not to eat? I'm sure that's really what went through their mind. And so they basically lost that willpower. Now when they gave them this test, they had no willpower to stay and to try to struggle with this test. And interestingly enough, that's why I tell people, if you have something really important, and you have an important meeting or so, don't struggle. This happens to me all the time, but now that I know research and I want to have a piece of chocolate, I don't struggle. I just have chocolate. Because I know I have an important meeting and I want to save that willpower for the meeting. So I'm going to turn it to Lynn.
Well, I was reading the side comments here, and Deborah brought up a really great point, which kind of goes right along with Jose's too, is that it's when we do through the fear, when we go through the fear, that's when we really become alive. And I don't know, if many of you experience this with fear of, okay, I'm going to try this, just like when you were a kid and, the first time you jumped off the diving board or did a backflip off the diving board, is that if you can get through that first fear of something, then that's when you really start to understand yourself and you start to understand the process of being able to do it. You might not have done it perfectly, but you are starting to see the process in motion, which this really kind of goes right to what Jose was talking about a little bit about before earlier. And he also put in here about making the personal commitment in front of others is not easy. And that's true too. That's where a lot of times the fear comes in, because, a lot of times with people who do want to shed a few pounds or something, is they don't want to tell anybody. They want to succeed, and then they want to tell everybody and share it. But the point is that when we do commit to making something and it does become meaningful, just like Deborah's put here in her last post too, is that sometimes we break habits because they're not totally meaningful to what we really want to do. We haven't really totally made that commitment yet, or decided that is part of our big journey, so to speak. So she also put here is being able to change your mindset. Jose talked about earlier about how do you change your actions to really achieve these goals. And the very first thing that we can do, just like I talked about with that stand-up paddling, is to change the mindset. What was holding me back, and to look at something and say, why am I not doing this? Because other people are going to laugh at me? Well, you know what? I laugh at myself a lot of times. So hey, I should be happy that people are joining me in laughter, or that I could make somebody laugh. That if I fell off the stand-up paddle, who cares? People aren't going to be talking about it. I don't think they're going to put it on the 6 o'clock news. And so, really trying to look at what our mindset is. And if we have these these, how can I say it, these ways of thinking that are really, really blocking us, is to look at them and say, are they really all that big? Or is it something that I can shrink down and minimize and make smaller? And to change that mindset. Is this really important to me? How important is it to me? Can I integrate this into my life? Do I want this as part of my life right now? Because one of the other things that we also need to look at is sometimes we're not ready to quite change, but we say, well, we can just do it by going through the motions. But just like Deborah talked about, we have to have that mindset to be able to go through the motions. So there has to be a commitment through the mental commitment as well as a physical commitment of, really integrating a habit and making a habit a habit in our lives.
Thanks, Lynn. That's really, really great. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy to make in front of other people, make the personal commitment. And I guess it all depends, what is it? You really need to make this with the people that you trust, right? So, if you don't feel comfortable, then you have to start with somebody that you trust very much, right? So that's, I agree, Jose, that's really important. But one thing we didn't cover in the beginning, because I really wanted to, more like try to answer a lot of questions. But one thing we didn't cover that's really, really important is that habits, as we create them, they basically truly like ingrained in our brain. We create this neural pathway that, based on the research, really never gets deleted. And it kind of sounds weird, but it really doesn't get deleted. The only thing what you can do is you can replace one habit with another one. So you can replace a bad habit with a good habit. And Deborah talked about changing the mindset. Yes, that's the way to do it. But for some people, it's not easy. So to give you an example of how you can replace the habit, you need to, look at, again, something we didn't talk about. It's like 3 elements of habits, right? So you have something that triggers it. Something happens. We don't think about it. But if you try and start to analyzing your habits, we guarantee something always triggers your habits. So if you think about, what do you do first thing in the morning? I don't know what you do, right? But I guarantee you there's something that you do when you get up. When do you brush your teeth? I don't know when, right? But there's a certain, time, maybe as soon as you get up, maybe, before you have a coffee, after you have a coffee, before you watch TV, after, I don't know, but there's certain habits that we, are you brushing your teeth with the left hand, right hand? I guarantee you that's with the dominant hand. That's what you do. And by the way, when we talked about this, there's another research that basically says that, and I have tested this and I know it works. If you brush your teeth with a non-dominant hand for, they say 21 days, I would say 30 days at least, you will actually increase your willpower. So again, we can focus more in other blobs on this. But basically, and how can you replace the habit? So to give an example, I used to drink and love Diet Coke. So what I would do, the weekend, you go out, cut the grass, garage door would be open, come in, there's a fridge, open up, on my eye level, there was a Coke, Diet Coke, get it, have one, go back, come back, have another one, so on. And I realized that that's just bad for me. And, the only reason I am having this drink is because I'm thirsty. So what I did is I replaced that habit with the water. So the trigger was the same. I was thirsty, right? I started sweating, I was thirsty. That's the trigger. The next thing is routine. My routine was almost the same. I go to the garage, I open up a fridge on the same spot, just instead of Diet Coke, I put the water. Right? That's, and there's another one. So that's what I did. I just put the water on there, and I would grab a water, ice cold, same spot, cold. It would help me with that. There you go. There's another one. And so that was my routine. And the third element of a habit is reward. And what's the reward? I felt good, right? I felt good. I thought I felt good also after having a Diet Coke because it satisfied my need, right? I was thirsty, and you get that cold drink and you feel good. So I'm hoping you can use this example to, hey Bruno, and Steve and a few more folks, Ed, I'm hoping you can use this example of a trigger, analyzing your habit, so that you can hopefully use that trigger and change just a little bit in that routine. You'll get the same reward if you can replace one habit with another.
Yeah, I think that's, what you're talking about here is really coming up with a plan, because so many people, if we were going to learn how to play basketball, or we were going to learn how to knit or sew or anything else, we would have a plan. But a lot of times when we're dealing directly with our life, we don't sit down and say, this is something that I want to change. Now, how am I going to do that? Most of the time we just say, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. So, really sitting down and evaluating your thoughts, evaluating that mindset about it, and just saying, is it plausible for me to take on this change right now? How much of a change can I fit into my life? Because sometimes people are really, really busy, and that's one of the biggest things that I would hear from my students. I just can't do it because my schedule is already overflowing. And so instead of saying, well, you can't do that goal, but how about if you cut it into, just a quarter of it? Could you, maybe do, instead of doing an hour of exercise a day, could you maybe fit in 15 minutes of exercise a day? And so it's looking at what can you fit in. I always talk about that, life is like a plate of spaghetti and it's full enough. And if somebody comes and plops a meatball on it and you try to push it in, then basically you're just going to have a great big mess because everything's going to fall off that plate. So we have to see what we can fit on our plate. So we have to prepare and we have to have a plan, just like we would with anything else.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ren. So we tried. We started late, so we're going to extend a little bit because we had the trouble with the blog. Lynn, if that's okay with you,
sure.
A few more minutes. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. So there are a number of new folks joined, and if you have some questions, anything about habits, happiness in general, please feel free to either turn on your camera and let us know, or just type where it says type something cool. It doesn't have to be cool. Just let us know what you're trying to establish, and we'll try to answer your question live during this broadcast. And while you're thinking what to ask, and I know the questions will start popping up as soon as we say, okay, we're gonna finish the broadcast in a few minutes. So maybe a few more things. So we talked about. There's one more thing I wanted to cover. Something. Here's a question. So I want to go through this, and we'll cover the. Actually, you know what? Let me look at the question.
Do stuff for other people.
Let me just see something. Okay. Ooh. So, Aline, please feel free to get started if you are okay on the last question, and then I'll.
This is just from personal experience and just from talking to a lot of my students and stuff. My whole thing is if I'm having a bad day, and one of the things I like to do is go out and go to thrift stores and I call it treasure trolling. That I find when I talk to people or I do something for somebody else is that I talked about it earlier, that I get twofold back from that. So how can we be happier? To me, it's getting out there and doing stuff for other people. I had a student one time who was kind of a grumpy student, and everything was negative and everything was da-da-da, and he was in the military and everything was just horrible with his life. And he was in positive psychology, so I'm sure he was in it because he wanted to try to be happier, I hope. Then 1 week he came back and he said, Professor Suits, can I share something with the class? And I said, sure. So he got up and he said, last week Professor Suits asked us if we would all go out and do something for somebody else. And he's like, I was just going to write something down on a piece of paper and lie. And he said, and then my commander said we all had to go and help out at the Special Olympics. So Friday night I went out and I went drinking and I got up and I was hungover and I had to go to the Special Olympics. And he said, I had to be a buddy to this one kid, and he went in a race, and it was pretty cool because he won. And then all of a sudden I got some other kids, and he said, I was there for 14 hours. By the end of the day, I couldn't talk. He said, I was worn out. I had barely had any water or anything because I was cheering so hard and hugging so many of those kids as they were getting rewarded. And he said, if I could tell anybody how you can feel happier, he's like, and his thing was to go and help out at the Special Olympics, because he said those kids give unconditional love. They want to win. It's a fun day. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. But the whole point was he was out there and he was giving to them, but he didn't even realize he was getting 2, 3, probably 10-fold back from all of them. So it was a really great experience for him.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks. So yeah, Deborah said, yeah, I agree. Helping others certainly increases happiness. There's a lot of research on doing, what we call unexpected kindness. So that's really helping others in a way that they don't really expect. So to my point on Bruno's question is, let me just see. Looks like I need to accept one call. Sorry.
Welcome. Oh, I'm not sure if Braco just got, can you all still see me? Okay, well, I guess he left me. So, when we talk about starting these habits and really putting them into your life, the other thing is the other side of it. One of the biggest things that I always look at as my background in counseling is to look at the shadow side of things. And one of the things, I don't know if all of you have experienced this or not, but the idea that if we start a habit and we don't meet that goal, that we tend to beat ourselves up over that. I don't know how many times that I've heard with people who wanted to try to quit smoking, as they said, oh, I've been quit for a year and then I had a cigarette, so I said, forget about it. I might as well just go back to smoking again. So the one thing with habits too is that we have to look at setbacks, and what do setbacks actually mean? They actually mean they're just a setback, and that we get back up on our feet and we try again. A lot of times this goes right back to talking about what Deborah had talked about with mindset and being able to talk to ourselves and be our own, rather than, be our own worst enemy, but be our own greatest champion too. On that note too, a lot of times people will feel like, well, I shouldn't toot my own horn, or I shouldn't be, make it seem like I've done something great. But if you have done something or you are reaching that goal, then you can be your own biggest champion just by even telling yourself, hey, that's something that was really significant, and share that with people too. Because, a lot of times we think, oh, people don't want to hear about me, but people do want to hear success stories, and people do want to help lift other people up. So I think that that's another important aspect of when you do try to achieve these goals through different habits, whether it's happiness or whether it's a physical type of goal, that you do acknowledge that and that you don't downplay it. And so you really, like I said, that you become your own greatest champion too. So are there any other questions out there as far as habits and how you can keep them or maintain them? What are some of the reasons that you've encountered that might be an issue with trying to keep habits on a day-to-day basis? Well, the other one thing is and I'll keep checking to see if we have any more questions here. But you know, one of the other big things that oh, here we have, why are keeping habits so hard? Well, you know, this was one of the things that we talked a little bit about earlier, because I do go through the Habits and Happiness book in my positive psychology course with my students. And one of the things that they talk about that is so hard, just like when we make the New Year's resolution, is that we haven't analyzed our life. We haven't looked at our life and said, okay, this can fit into my life, and this is something that I really want to do, and I'm going to set the time aside. If you only have 24 hours in a day and you want to take up, say, a workout regime, and that workout regime is going to take up 2 hours a day, then you have to understand, where are you going to get that 2 hours a day from? So you have to be able to say, either I'm going to give up 2 hours of watching TV, and that's where I'm going to do my workout, or there's something else that I'm willing to give up to work out. But if you don't have time in your schedule and you try to cram it in, it becomes more stressful. And when we feel stress, you know, our psyche will set in to place some sort of barrier, and so we tend to start to back off, or we tend to justify, well, it's okay if I don't go today, or it's okay if I, you know, don't go on the weekends. And so we're trying to stay in balance. You know, in life, that's really what it's all about, is staying in balance, either physically or mentally. And so to keep habits, it has to be something first that fits into our life schedule. And second, a lot of times it's hard to create that good habit and not give up that bad habit, because there's sometimes that we have to give up a bad habit. If we want a good habit, say to quit smoking, which is what I talked about earlier, then there's going to be a number of different things that you have to do. You have to give up smoking, but there's so much more that goes along with smoking. When do you smoke? Oh, you get to go and have that cigarette with the group of people that get to go outside and smoke, so that means that you get to go and talk to those people. So you have to be willing to give up that social aspect of it. Then when's another time that maybe you might smoke? And so that might be that you maybe go to a certain restaurant and you get to socialize again. Well, you know, maybe that's not the best environment for you, that when you're trying to quit smoking. So, you know, again, it's really hard sometimes, because not only is it hard to create that good habit, but we're also trying to push out that bad habit too. So, you know, it's not always easy when we say we have to create these habits and we can create better habits for ourselves. It's very good on paper, but when we actually go to do it, we find that a lot of times that our lives are so busy that it just might not fit into to where, you know, we want to be at a particular time. You know, I don't know how many of you have gone to either college or to university, but one of the biggest things that I hear from some of my students is they say, you know what, I want to finish my degree in 3 years. And I said, well, that's a very admirable goal. And I said, you know, but life issues can come up and things can happen. If I don't finish it in 3 years, then what's the worth of even doing it? Well, the other thing that we have to consider is sometimes we have to be a little flexible when we talk about habits, because even if we do start initiating these habits, things are going to happen in life, and we have to realize that, you know, we can't force ourselves or put ourselves into undue stress over keeping that habit. If you said that you were going to work out for an hour and something happened with a loved one, then that's the time that you are going to take off, you know, a few weeks to deal with that. And so, you know, a lot of times pressuring ourselves through stress to keep the habits is kind of another, I guess, another fallacy about habits too, that even though we create them, sometimes we've got to be a little bit flexible with them also. So I don't think that Braco's going to come back online. It looks like he is it looks like he's on the side, but I know he's going to try to set up another few of these lectures and talk a little bit more about habits. Oh, and here we go. And everyone should join in Braxton's 10 Blab too. So that might be another good one to join also to check out. But I think for now, Braco will send out another invites for this. And also, if there is something else that you want to talk about as far as positive psychology goes, as far as habits go, just email him on his Facebook page. As you all know, he's a very personable individual. He loves to engage in this type of format, and we love hearing from you. And if there's something even that you want to hear about in positive psychology, I teach many different disciplines that have to do with positive psychology in different courses, health and wellness. Actually, death and dying is actually a wonderful connection to positive psychology. Just life habits. We would really love to hear from all of you, and we would really love to, carry on this discussion and talk about how we can, integrate these more positive things into your life, and how these habits can enhance a person's life. Or if there's other things that you want to talk about, we'd be happy to talk about those also. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. And again, I want to thank you all for being here and for being part of the discussion or listening in. And we look forward to having another platform in this way with all of you. So until then, have a wonderful night.